We want to welcome you guys to L3 Perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Glenn Davis. I'm sitting here with my guy, Cameron Macias.
It's your boy, Killer Cam.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Glenn Davis. I'm sitting here with my guy, Cameron Macias.
Killer Cam.
And we wanted to welcome you to the L3 Perspective, where we talk about life, where we talk about love, where we talk about leadership. And this is a space where we simply just want to provide value, right? This is a space where we're excited in doing that, providing practical principles when talk about life, talking about love, talking about leadership itself. And so, I'm really, really excited about today's guest. Super excited about this, brother.
Yep. And before we get started, as always, subscribe, follow, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you can't find us on Facebook or YouTube, you can find us on Instagram, the L3 Perspective. That'll lead you to all of our stuff. Please share, like, comment, let us know suggestions. If y'all got people who you think would be great to come on the show, that's what we want to hear from you guys. So as we get started, Chris, thank you for coming with us, man. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always exciting to have great conversations and share a little bit of my story. So I guess first and foremost, if you guys no one's heard of me yet, then I'm a photographer in Sacramento, California. I've been doing photography about 15 years. This is all I do full time. I quit my job about 4 years ago to pursue this dream, hence the shirt that I'm wearing. And I'm a father, and I don't know what's an interesting fact. I have a cool.
Love the cup, by the way, man.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a camera gift. If you ever need a photographer gift, then the cup is probably an easy go-to.
But they also might have like 3 of them.
Gotcha. No, that's good stuff, man. So definitely want to unpack some of that. Talk about living the dream. You quit your job 4 years ago. So, Chris, I've been obviously following you and been connected with you for years. And so just kind of seeing the growth of you from where you were, 9-10 years ago to where you are now, the man that you are, the father that you are. Let's unpack some of that, man. So you're out in Sacramento, California, right?
Yeah.
And so living the dream. Let's start there. Living the dream. Your T-shirt says "Living the Dream." Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So living the dream has kind of been like my slogan for a few years now, maybe 6 years, I'd say. I really just started saying it as a way of speaking my life into existence, something I learned from a mentor of mine when I was working. And just to really put yourself out there in a positive light, and whatever you want, you desire, you can create, with your mindset. And so at the time, I was just working 9 to 5 job, work for the state of California, and over the years, I worked there for 13 years. It just eventually stopped feeling fulfilling to me. I was literally just scratching and crawling at any bit of information I could learn to try to get myself into a different situation and leave my job for good. And so living the dream was just there's something I read in a book or something my mentor said to me, and I just started speaking it every day, saying that I am living my dream. I'm living the dream. I just said it every single day to the point where when it happened, it felt like it was this is what I'm supposed to be doing rather than, a forced situation.
Yeah. No, it's funny because we have a joke in the military. Like we were like, "How's your day going?" They're like, "Oh, living the dream." And it's funny because we've like made a cliche out of it, but there's people like you who are like, that's a daily mantra for me that legitimately like keeps me moving towards the life that I'm trying to live.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
definitely brings a different appreciation for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about mindset, and kind of manifestation, right? So manifesting, living the dream, living the dream. At what point? So I know you said that you 4 years ago you walked away from your job. There's so many people who go into their jobs. They hate going into their Mondays, right? They hate being at the job, and they're just kind of like clocking in and clocking out, right? And so, like, at what point was it for you where you were just like, hey, enough is enough? Like, I don't want to just talk about living the dream. I want to actually live the dream.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't think it was any particular moment that was just like, this is it. I'm out of here.
Janice
Uh,
didn't send me my
yeah,
reports. I'm done with this place.
dramatic desk flip and throwing papers. No, I think it was a buildup of things that just over time kept occurring. My manager just breathing down my neck, his coworkers complaining all day, every day. It was just unhappy there, honestly. It felt like going to work, it was like dragging my feet. Like I started to not care at all if I was late at all. I would take 30-minute, 15-minute breaks, and when it gets that bad, it's like, okay, I can't do this forever. I can't sit here and just grow old. So I think I remember two defining moments. On top of that, though, was one, my mentor told me next time you get your paycheck because we got paid once a month working for the state. So it was the same check every month. At the first, here's your check, and that was it. And you already knew how much it was going to be every time. There was no change. And he said, next time you get your check, I want you to take it out, hold it up to the light, and ask yourself, is this all I'm worth? Think that regardless of the numbers on the check, anybody who does that, their answer is going to be no. Like I'm worth more than this, but it had to be the change in your mind. Like I can do more. I am worth more. I deserve more. So doing that was pretty emotional at the time and pretty frustrating. Um, and another moment, I was listening to a podcast on YouTube. Fortunately, at my job, we were able to listen to headphones all day. And so I was just listening to audiobooks, meditation music, podcast audios, all these things. And it wasn't something I didn't hear before, but for some reason, that moment, it clicked differently. And I forget who it was that was speaking at the time, but he said to imagine yourself, you know, 90 years old, laying on your deathbed and looking back at your life to the moment you're in right now, or this big decision that you're trying to make. At that age, would you regret not doing the decision or would you regret making the decision? And looking back at my life futuristically like that it just became a no-brainer. Like I'm leaving. I have to leave,
Yeah.
because it would be one of the biggest regrets of my life.
And that's something I know, like Glenn brought like the perfect phrase when we like reconnected, was the many of us are not kind to our future selves.
Mm,
And I rock with that. Like I honestly think about that every single
Mhm.
day. And I tell my friends and all my other people that too, is like, what decisions are you making today that are kind to your future self? Because we don't like to think about it.
Mhm.
You remember when that app came out where like it made you old or whatever, like on your phone?
like on Snapchat or something.
Yeah, like whatever. Like they did a
Yeah.
study on that where when people use that app, they were like 5 times more likely to get their finances in order because they were able to now see themselves 20 years in the future and like
Mhm.
relate to that person. Whereas, the rest of us, we just see the person in the mirror aging day by day and don't really care. Like you said, you're 90 years old and you're like, dang,
Mhm.
I didn't make the right decision, or I could have followed this path, whether it worked out or not. It would have been an experience that I now have never experienced.
Right, right. And you could always like the answer is you can always get another job, but you won't always
Right.
get another opportunity to grow.
They be jobs, bro.
Yeah, I remember, a few years back, I came across this saying on the internet, and when what you just said kind of sparked it back, and it was like, when you change the way you think, you change the way you live.
Mm,
I forgot who mentioned it, but I remember reading that, and over the last couple of years, like it's always stood out to me. And so, with you having that mindset shift to, again, manifesting, hey, living the dream, to execute and actually living the dream, right?
mm,
You're not only are you a photographer who travels around the state, you're an author as well. Um, as an entrepreneur in the very beginning, were there any life challenges that you faced transitioning from your typical 9 to 5 to betting on yourself to jump into that arena?
He's smiling. He's like, "Are you ready for 5 years of advice?"
Yeah. Like it's been a long, cold winter.
No one told me the winters would be so cold.
Yeah, yeah, you've seen those videos where they talk about in the future when someone brings up, like your grandkids bring up the year 2020, you just start like tripping and like, oh, where's my mask? Like, because it was such a hard time to live through COVID. Yeah, there's so many things that have happened over the years, and it's been like a roller coaster, honestly. It's kind of hard to pick just one story of the struggle periods, but I would say there was big moments that I didn't feel like things were going to go my way, or maybe I made the wrong decision by leaving the job, and you just run out of money. There was times where I I mentally prepared myself though. When I left my job, I knew that anything could happen, and I had already made the decision that I'm never coming back. So with that, I was willing to accept any struggle or any failure that would come my way, because another thing I would do is I would be inspired and feel motivated, and I would go around asking my coworkers like, man, like what did you want to do when you grow up? Like, didn't you want to do something else? Like, I know you didn't wake up, grow up one day and be like, I'm going to work for the state. Like, what was your goals and things? And a lot of people, they didn't have clarity on that, or they had something going on, but there was like some excuse, like, yeah, but they just kind of made up some reasons as to why it wouldn't work for them. And so those things too helped me make a decision that no matter what happened, I'm going to push through it. And yeah, so there was definitely times where I could barely afford to put gas in my car, didn't know how I was going to pay rent. I was in a relationship and I mean, I still have, but I had a relationship and I had my daughter, and being, the man of the house, feeling the pressure of trying to provide for your family and maintain a happy home was really heavy at one point too. So I think that just getting through that, even though I'm not in a relationship anymore, like my daughter and I, our relationship has actually grown and got closer, and you just learn to push through all the rejections.
Can we pause real quick? I want to go back because you were talking about how, like, at a certain point, it felt like you were at your low, right? And so
Yeah.
having a daughter, because there's a lot of people who are on this entrepreneur journey. There's a lot
Yeah.
of people who even just go to their 9 to 5, but they have this dark cloud. What was it for you that helped push you through like that, like getting over that barrier
Yeah.
as far as mentally?
Mm. You know, Sometimes I think back, like the position I'm in now and versus how bad it was or how bad it had gotten then in the beginning of my journey. I was like, what was I doing then that I'm not doing now? Because there's habits that you learn to form and pick up, and a mental toughness that you learn to just kind of callous over. And now when things get easier, it's like you don't have to, be as um, diligent maybe in certain areas. So I was like, man, what really did push me through? And I think just making promises to my daughter first and foremost that I'm going to take care of her no matter what, and like he's going to figure it out. Like if we go to anywhere, the grocery store, the mall, kids, they want something. You can't go anywhere without
All the time.
Everything.
And I didn't like telling her no because it wasn't like she didn't deserve it. It was just because daddy couldn't afford it. And knowing I think when you make it bigger than just yourself and you put the responsibility, like I have this other person outside of me that I have to take care of, that I'm responsible for. Um, and they don't know any different. They look at you like, yeah, they think you're always rich, or they think that you're just gonna be there forever and you're gonna take care of them. So I was like, how could I let her down? And I think that's really what, like, I have to do this.
That's where like that those value based decisions like really come like really align with like where you're gonna go, because like you said, like it has to be bigger than yourself. Like it has to be attached to something that really forms you as a person. If you're really going to make those changes, and that's a testament to like really kind of knowing what's important to yourself. Because a lot of people think that they kind of know until they like do a value assessments, or they're in a position like you are, and they're like, this is what is really important, and this is what I'm made of, and I can't fail.
Mm.
Right.
I wanna ask. So we talk about love, right? And so obviously that could be in so many different layers. But like, so obviously as a great photographer, loving what you do, right? And so with loving what you do, how do you, or at what point was it for you where you were just like you really found that love, or as far as a photographer, that love found you?
Mm.
It's funny. People ask me like, how long you been doing photography, or when did you first start? And I remember when I was a kid walking around my apartment complex. There was like waterfalls and flowers, and I had those like wound up Kodak cameras at the time. And I remember walking around just taking pictures of things like that. But there was a long gap between childhood Kodak photography, between getting a real camera and actually pursuing it. So I feel like maybe it's just always been a part of me somehow. Um, but once I got a real camera, I was actually a club promoter at the time, and I just used that to take pictures of everybody I knew at the club, and that's kind of how it helped transition to me getting to know a lot of people and turning those club photos into like one-on-one photo shoots. But the love for it was just there. Some things just click in your mind, no pun intended, and you just
That's awesome. I want to. So you mentioned about club promoting, and so I want to talk about the law of attraction real
Oh
quick.
yeah.
It's funny how this works. So,
oh yes,
um,
I
my
already know what you're
my
gonna say.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, my wife Tegan, right? Before Chris and I ever connected,
No.
we went to this lounge, and Chris was the event photographer, right?
Okay.
And so he took a picture. I mean, he came up, was like, "Hey, can I take a picture of you guys?" We took a picture. Fast forward, didn't think anything of it. Somehow we got reconnected,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so he was doing a mixer in Sacramento, and I drove out there. We reconnected, and I was going through like his pictures. You know what I'm saying? Not Facebook stalking,
being a
but
creeper.
and I seen the picture of Tegan and I, and it's funny because we circled back, we started laughing and everything, but it's crazy how, and so now we've been not only just friends, but we've been brothers, we've been entrepreneurs, we've been just everything, just in connection. But it's funny how sometimes when you are asking for good people to be in your life, how they get attracted to you, right? Like if you are if you're a good person, individual, but it's funny. So to circle all that back, I've known Chris for years, and it's funny because if had he not taken that photo, we may not have even been connected to even have him on the podcast. So, anyway, enough of that story. But just kind of talking about, just talking about just how things the universe got kind of working itself out. But I want to ask you a question because I've seen you impact so many people, right? And so I've seen you actually create a space and a platform for individuals to showcase their talent, right? So you're an author, right? And so can we talk about that very briefly before we wrap up? As far as your why was it important for you to start those workshops and then also the publish the book?
Yeah, so I try to separate myself from most photographers, and I feel like my approach in general to my business is different than and really any other photographer that I've ever met, because it's not just about taking photos. For me, it was a business first. Like, how can I make this into a business? And when you think in those terms, you think of different ways that you can add value to others while creating success and still doing something that I enjoy. So I think maybe partially the party environment when I was club promoting, I missed that interaction with like large groups of people, and I really enjoyed the feeling of hosting an event, and I knew everybody there, and everybody came because I invited them, and I saw people having a good time, and then when you host things like that, you see groups of people that you know mingling, and now they're off becoming friends, and so it's like a domino effect. And with the I decided in my photography niche to hone down on headshots and modeling portfolio work. It's just more enjoyable for me. Working with adults one on one has just been, well, there's more of a passion there for me rather than working with 2-year-olds. So I do both. Yeah, I do both, but working with adults was just like, this is it. So just talking to my clients and getting to know my customers and my audience and figuring out their struggle points and what they need help with. And so I was like, okay, there there's an area here that needs to be fulfilled. And I think that's where the book came in. That's where the workshop started coming in, and just different events. So like, besides taking pictures, okay, I'm gonna help you learn how to pose. I'm gonna help you learn how to get signed to an agency. I help you learn how to build your self confidence, because all these other things are needed. So they'll take pictures and they'll post it on social media, and then they'll be done with it. But I wanted to take it another step further.
you you have like almost this like series. I don't know how long you've been doing it, but obviously now I see it that we're connected. It's like the things you don't do to the photographer, like like take a picture with your iPhone and then send me the cuts to edit for you, or like or stuff. Those things are hilarious, but those are like that's real life, Like people don't think about those things. I think we were talking about that when it came to like the podcast thing. Is like
Mm-hmm.
you know asking someone to like when we started our podcast, like people haven't done it, but like what happens if someone like asks us to come on the podcast that and realistically maybe it's not as valuable as we may think it is, right? Because we have to make sure we're very cognizant of what are we putting out to our listeners and things like that. But just in general, both of our minds were like, I would never just like be like, oh, you started a podcast, like you're gonna put me on, right? Like, uh, so it's funny that like those conversations are ones that internally I don't think people have to themselves sometimes.
Right. Now you really have to put yourself in the mind of your customer
Yeah.
and not think about how can I make money doing this or how can I sell this to that
Mm.
person. You have to think about, if you were your customer, what's going to make them be like, yes, I want that.
Right.
Yes, the value is there. Like, yes, I want your help. And it really changes the way you approach things. It won't just be about selling it to them. It'll be about helping them.
Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. So
That adding value,
that
man.
and
Go
value.
ahead.
So as we wrap it up, Chris, if you wouldn't mind, tell people, where they can find you, what, like you said kind of earlier, what's some of the services that you offer, and ultimately any parting words that you have for the listeners.
Yeah, Studio 713. You can find me on social media or mostly Instagram. Studio, so the seven. It's always kind of weird how I explain it. It's Studio, the number seven, and then 13 is spelled out. On TikTok, it's Chris the Photographer, DA Photographer. So you can find my funny videos on there. But yeah, I do portrait photography, headshots. I have a weekly modeling workshop that I do every Monday on Zoom for free. I do have the Modeling Secrets ebook, and soon I'll be hosting uh, modeling workshops where you can come learn from other experienced models how to pose, walk, and just industry secrets about how to take your career to the next level.
Bet.
That's leadership right there.
Facts.
That's leadership. Hey, Chris, as Cam mentioned, very thankful for your time, man. It was great having you on. The conversations are always wonderful. Continue living the dream, right? Continue creating those spaces and those platforms so that people can actually get their talents exposed. Because again, just what you're doing, man, I'm a huge fan of you from a business aspect and then from a man aspect and a father as well, man. But thank you for your time, brother. Until then, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Chris, thank you. Have a
Of
good one.
course, thank you for having me. Appreciate you
Later.
guys.